That's right.
Said he would come down with a new style. He said, "Ma, break free from reality with me. This time around, well, you can see that there ain't nothing but you and me, and we
And
know
your mom.
it's been turtles all the way down,
And that you're not real.
all the way down." I'm not real. Time.
You're really unreal.
Time's not a thing.
By that I mean you don't exist. And
God.
I don't either.
Not a thing,
time
but
or
you're also
God.
God. It's complicated. We should probably start the show.
And here we are. This is A Sacred Shame, the Sacred Shame Show. I am Seamus Harvey. My heartfelt apologies for that terrible opening song. I had a friend bet me that I wouldn't produce and sing a song from a genre of his choosing about turtles all the way down. And if you don't know what that means, we're 100% going to get into it on this here podcast. But I love a good bet where I'm a sure thing. So he picked ska, and that's what you get. I apologize. I only played, part of it, but man, I did win, and that's a good feeling. So yeah, there you go. Turtles all the way down. The ska hit of the pandemic by Seamus Harvey. Hey everybody, how are you guys doing? I am very stir crazy, which I had imagined a lot of you guys are. I'm based in New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a Southern boy, and have all of the, mental, psychological hangups that come from being raised in the South. But overall, I think New Orleans is a fantastic city. And yeah, apart from basically having been on house arrest with, most of the rest of the world, I think I'm doing good. Better than most, probably. And yeah, so welcome to the first episode of the Sacred Shame Show. So, gonna start off by just ripping this Band-Aid off up front. And there was a lot of debate over this with the people that I told about wanting to start a podcast like this as to whether this is something I should bring up front. And the overwhelming opinion was that no, I should sort of give you guys a little candy breadcrumb trail to get you addicted to my ridiculousness and podcast, and then sort of pull the mat out from underneath you and drop this information as a core belief of myself as who I am here in the third dimension talking to you. And I didn't like that idea. That's very Scientology, like not telling you about Xenu until, you're $150,000 down the track or whatever. And so let's just get this out of the way, just right here up front on the first episode, first segment. You, the person right now listening to this podcast, you are not real. Yeah. You're not real. At least you're not real like in the way that you think you are and that you have perceived yourself as being, and as the world around you tells you. And the flip side to that is that that you and I, we're the same. And I don't mean like we're both people or we're both like entities. I mean like we're literally the same energy. We are two separate waves on a massive energy field that extends through all infinity. And so we're going to start with that core layer right now. So you don't have to buy into that right now. That's totally cool. Matter of fact, it's probably a sign of having conventional sanity, and that applaud you for that. But if you can at least keep your mind open to that possibility, the possibility that everything that you've ever experienced in your whole life, everything that you've ever gone through, every joy, trauma, pain, all of that, if you can't open your mind up to the fact that there's a possibility that all of that is just a shared delusion that we're inflicting on ourselves because we sat in a higher realm and we're like, man, I really wonder what it would be like to have a ridiculous pandemic and lock ourselves in houses and just be afraid and the worldwide economy fail around us, basically because we just wanted to see what would happen. Like this probably isn't the place for you. But if that's, somewhat vibes, you could be like, all right, this dude's nuts. Let me see what else comes out of his stupid mouth. Then hang around. I think that we're going to have a lot of fun on this show. You should be podcasting. You have something important to say. You know that. You're a unique person with your own voice and vision and all of that stuff. And, podcasting you probably seems daunting, but it's not. Or it doesn't have to be. That's what's awesome about Anchor FM. They've made it super simple where you can just podcast directly from your phone. You're hearing me from a phone right now. My whole podcast is done from an iPhone. It's super simple, it's easy to use, and it'll get you on Spotify and all of the other major platforms for podcasting delivery. You should really check out Anchor and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, so that was a quick commercial interlude. Hopefully you were listening to the sound of my voice again, but maybe not. Maybe you're listening to someone else, Spotify or whoever you're listening to this on currently stuffed in there. But it could have been me. Could have been me talking to you about Anchor.fm, which I won't do anymore because you probably did hear that. Anyway, we're back. Listen to my first segment ever on a podcast that is actually mine and not me guesting on somebody else's. And it's, there's something surprisingly freeing about making statements and committing them down to where they could be listened to and re-listened to and edited and copied and ultimately like put on Fox News and used in your trial as to why you've actually lost your mind. There is something freeing about that, and actually like doing it willingly with the understanding that most people that hear that's the only conclusion that they're going to come to. And you know what? It's kind of cool. Yeah. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about that, but I'm here and, listen to myself sounding super crazy, and I'm okay with it, which that's how crazy people feel though, right? Yeah, probably. Anyway, moving on. So I'm not going to keep you guys too long. This is, first day of class here. And just like think back to when you would have first day of class in middle school, high school, maybe even college, that first day, there wasn't a lot of expectation there. We're going to run through the syllabus of how the class is going to go, expectations from both parts, and maybe talk about your hobbies, something like that. But nothing too crazy here on the first episode of the Shame Show. We're going to go through, I guess, what would be a syllabus, which are sort of ground rules of the things that we're going to be talking about here. And the first one's out of the way. We ripped the big one off, which is the fact that that I don't believe you're real because you're not. It's cool though. I'm not real either, at least not in the way that our parents told us we were, or Uncle Sam, or if you're in another country, whatever euphemism you have for the dictatorial control of a government body over you. Yeah, that's it. Rambling a little bit. It's weird being a solo podcaster because you don't have anybody to blame except for yourself when you ramble on stuff. I can't really point another finger at anybody. But anyway, getting back on track finally. So here's the thing. So that's it. You're not real. I'm not real. People aren't real. And essentially what you're experiencing is reality. A simulation's a good way to look at it, but don't think of it as a simulation like a computer simulation. That is assigning a property of this reality here in the third dimension of computational mechanics as you know it, as it's been explained to you, like that's universal, and perhaps that it is, but ultimately it's really information, totally. Everything that you experience is information. Now, there'll be arguments of saying that everything that you experience is energy, and that's true too, but, sort of like not reducing your fractions properly in math class. That's not getting to the core amount, which is that energy is ultimately, a representation of the potential position of subatomic particles at any given time. And that is information. And so everything around you is just information. And we are, if you watch Rick and Morty, basically we're in a very large game of Roy right now. And, Rick has taken us off grid. Roy has no social security number. This is crazy, man. But yeah, that's basically what all this is that somewhere in some higher dimension than the third dimension that you're in right now, the higher version of you, or I don't know, some guys out back of a fifth dimensional gas station who thought it would be funny, sent you down here to experience the life that you're experiencing right now. And that's the only reason that you're here. And there's really not a whole lot you can do about that, but it is kind of your fault. It's actually entirely your fault that you're here. It's just not the you that's in the third dimension's fault. But since you are actually connected to everything else, you do have responsibility for essentially everything good, bad, indifferent, negative, positive, whatever that happens. So if that's the case, and you're on this sort of infinite game of shared delusions, it has a lot of consequences for basically everything you've ever been taught. And things like, good and evil and positive, negative, those sorts of things, they actually start losing a lot of their meaning, if not all of their meaning. And then what you realize that there isn't really any of that. There's really just, suitable for a purpose and not suitable for a purpose. And that's it. So a decision that you're going to make now, it's not good or bad, but it is either going to get you closer or further away from where you're trying to be. And that's really how everything is. And a lot of that's like, if you go with me down this crazy path, and lots of other people have, it's not just me, I'm not the only one that believes this. This is similar to the beliefs of lots of different religions throughout time. But if you go on this path, the things that start becoming difficult are things like, if you're everyone and you're connected, you are literally the same energy. It's great when it's like you think of being, hey, I'm David Bowie. That's the thing I use all the time. You're David Bowie. It's very nice to meet you. Fantastic back catalog. Love all of it. That's great. But when someone tells you that you're also Pol Pot or Hitler, that's a lot harder to put together, right? So we're going to steer clear of the I'm Hitler, I'm Pol Pot conversations here on the syllabus episode of A Sacred Shame. The core things are that you're not real. This is a construct, shared delusion, that you're here. So free will versus determinism. Like most things, the answer to that is actually both, right? Which is that you have no free will right now here in the third dimension, none. You are basically just on a trajectory of events and randomness and programming that happened that set you down this path. But the path was decided for you outside of the third dimension, right? And so that path was created by someone who had free will and set this path in motion because it would be fun. So the answer to lots of these sorts of questions and to this one is both. There is both free will and determinism at the same time. That duality of holding that superposition, that cosmic superposition of you both being, the guy or gal or trans person or whatever your wonderful gender identifier is, that is stuck in a box of wood during a global pandemic, ordering too much Uber Eats and watching terrible shows on Netflix and Hulu, that person and the almighty creator of everything that's ever existed, ever will exist, and exists now are the same. You're both of those two things at the same time. It's really hard. It's really hard to wrap your head around that cosmic superposition, which is being in two states, two places at the same time. That's what we all are. We all are these wonderful, wacky, quirky, cosmic superpositions. And that fact right there, talking about the exploration of the wacky cosmic superposition humans that you interact with on a daily basis, that that's going to be the basis of this show right here. So if I just lost you because this sounds psychotic and like the ramblings of a madman, totally get it. Thanks for sticking around this long. And for the rest of you that are intrigued and or like disgusted, but slightly curious about what else is going to come out of my mouth, lots more podcast episodes coming up, hopefully. And I will see you guys all, or at least the ones that come back, on the next episode of Sacred Shame. Seamus Harvey, have a great rest of your apocalypse.